baseball here today in Tallahassee, and we are underway at Hauser. The first pitch, an opening ball to the leadoff DH, Spencer Myers. Myers getting the nod as the DH and the leadoff man, followed up by Jared Miller, Jack Brannigan, Carter Putz, Ryan Cole, TJ Williams, Brooks Coetzee, Zach Preisner, and Danny Neri getting the nod behind the plate. Ryan Cole, the hero yesterday for Notre Dame with the home run, his second on the season, batting average north of 300 at 304. That'll go down as a loud strike off the bat of Spencer Myers, a guy who had been a consistent starter for Notre Dame over the previous couple of seasons. This year has started most of the contest. This will be his 14th start in 19 games. He's a senior from Tampa, Florida, and predominantly has played the outfield, but has also gotten nods as he has today as the DH. Hard hit ball deep in the 5-6 hole. Carry on, able to get that throw to first, no problem.
See how the ball reacted off the infield. The infield's been covered for all night. Light rain today, but we're expecting more rain. That did not happen, but Carry On going to his right, catching the ball about 2 steps in the outfield grass, and that tremendous throwing arm, 1 out.
So Jordan Carry On has introduced himself. This is a new-look Florida State defense and lineup when we get to it. Carry On joined by Brett Roberts up the middle, Lacey and Cade Bush out on the corners. In the outfield, Trayton Rank, who's made starts up the middle of the infield this season, is joined by Isaiah Perry in center and Jaime Ferrer in right. Colton Vincent getting the nod as the catcher, and of course we've introduced you to Bryce Hubbard, the starting pitcher.
Bryce Hubbard's last start last weekend against Duke did not have his great stuff, and he's been known to have some of the best stuff on Florida State's club. Only struck out 4, but he battled through it, picked up the win, throwing 7 strong innings.
Fed the defense more than we're accustomed to seeing. Was up there in terms of strikeout numbers at the very top of all of the pitchers in the country. Has fallen just a little bit into the top 15, if that's such a bad thing. And he works here 2-1 to Jared Miller. This one popped foul. It'll go 2-2.
Finding the strike zone is going to be huge today for Hubbard. You know, Chip, you mentioned the fact that he was a little bit more errant than he normally is last week, but trying to find that consistency again and really attack these Notre Dame hitters.
Went 7 innings against the Blue Devils, gave up a couple of earned runs, a handful of hits as well. Count goes forward.
Hubbard is not going to beat himself. He's only given up 9 base on balls all year, 1 in every start except Wake Forest on a very cold day in Winston-Salem. He gave up 5 walks.
This one's popped up. Shallow outfield, and Trayton Rank charges on to make the play.
It always finds the new guy, Sean.
Certainly does.
Trayton Rank's first start, he began the year as a shortstop. He's an athlete, came a long way. And that's a long way to come to catch the baseball when your eyes are bobbling and everything else with your head going. 2 out.
No doubt about it. That kind of play comes down to good communication from the defenders. You have Jordan Carry On sprinting and Rank out and left. Just trying to make a play.
It's unfortunate that the rain kind of kept a lot of people away. Again, a 4-hour delay. It started this game. And we'll get into that outside of this 2-out conversation. A lot of crowd may be filtering back in. A bunch of tickets were sold for this weekend.
Meanwhile, it's 1-1 to Jack Brannigan. Some folks making their way out into the bleachers over in right field. Only 4 hits for each of these clubs last night. We'll talk about some of the different numbers and metrics to really illustrate how dominant the pitching was largely for both of these sides. And that's another good way to classify it. Of those 4 hits, Alex, you and I were talking, there were 2 guys in the roster, in the lineup for Notre Dame responsible for them.
Yeah,
Putz and Ryan Cole each had 2.
Yeah, Ryan Cole was 2 for 5 with that 2-run home run in the 12th, and Carter Putz was 2 for 5 as well. That's the difference. These Notre Dame hitters, there was only 2 guys in the lineup doing any kind of production.
It was still enough to beat the Seminoles on night one. This one is elevated to shallow right, and Jaime Ferrer is underneath it. Bryce Hubbard works rank Vincent Perry, Carrion, and Cade Bush, getting the starting nod at first. The numbers for Ferrer: 343, 5 home runs, and 21 RBI.
That's not a typo. 9 right-handed hitters set up there for Florida State.
And straight away, a leadoff hit by pitch puts a runner aboard for Florida State.
It is his second hit by pitch for Finley.
Well, that will bring up Brock Mathis. He hasn't always been in the lineup, but largely when he has been, he's made it count. And Alexandra, I know you've got more on the Florida State DH.
We haven't seen too much of Brock Mathis this season, but his story of getting to Florida State is actually pretty remarkable. He finished the 2021 season at Oklahoma State and moved home to Fairfield, Ohio, where he started working a desk job and was even set to get married in June until his former teammate said, "Bro, we got another year. Just enter the transfer portal and see what happens." No sooner than that, he heard from Florida State, and he told his dad he knew he was meant to be here. He's fitting in great with the guys on the team and has contributed well to this Florida State offense with 4 home runs on the season already. So we're excited to see him out here at bat today.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. Mathis, a guy who packs plenty of power. And he was trying to unleash it right there. Good eye on the ball down low.
And that's what these Florida State hitters need to do today, is really lay off that off-speed pitch. We saw them yesterday, Chip. The majority of their strikeouts was on that off-speed changeup that was down in the dirt, and they just have to really hone in on their plan today and get a ball up in the zone that they can drive.
Full count, Ferrer goes. Mathis fouls it off, and so the freshman will make his way back to first.
Finley, as I mentioned, has not walked a batter all year. 3-2 count. Mathis swinging hard. Fastball, pulled it foul. Watch out down there, Alex.
Got underneath it. Charging in. Center field. Williams underneath it makes the play. That is a common trend for Notre Dame. They cover ground and they make quality plays on defense as well as anybody in the country.
Not a whole lot of wind tonight, but that ball was hit well in the air. He broke back, is what a center fielder does when the ball's hit at you. But he really had some great closing speed to make that catch. 1 out.
Yeah, you made a good point there about the wind. Old Glory laying still out there beyond center field. That'll bring up Logan Lacey.
Logan Lacey in. Logan Lacey is one of these hitters on Mike Martin Jr.'s comments after the ballgame that guys getting pull happy. Again, Lacey's a guy that can take the ball middle part and drive the ball the other way. And if he does that, it makes his hand so much quicker on the inside pitch.
There's the fastball inside. Like Jarrett told us earlier today during the rain delay that Finley's a guy that they hope can profile like a John Michael Bertrand. Obviously, there's an age differential, and he's just getting acclimated. Throw down to second. Ferrer slides in, and he is out. Eliminate the base runner.
2-1 count, 1 out. Not sure. Lacey took a late swing at that. Might be hit and run again. Try to put the ball in play, get the runner going. Was not what was drawn up. 2 out.
Pulls this one down the line. Brannigan on the... We're here at Hauser. Sean Davison, Chip Baker, Alex Powers, Alexandra DeCapua, and Carter Putz at the plate. Both of these teams have the hitting and the pitching to make it to Omaha. It's putting the two together at any given time, particularly in the postseason. That will be key. And Putz has really put the bat on the ball pretty well here this weekend to this point. There is a leadoff base knock, and in addition to the 2 yesterday, that's 3 hits this weekend.
Well hit ball. That ball just jumped off the bat at 104 miles an hour. Trackman's working today. Lady did not get it up for Florida State. That ball was well hit. One hop. Straight and right there in left field.
And that brings up Ryan Cole. Cole, a guy from San Ramon, California. He's a senior, one of a ton of seniors and graduate students up and down the lineup and the roster in general for Link Jarrett and the Fighting Irish. Batting average north of 300, OPS right around 850. Drove in 2 runs last night with 1 swing of the bat. That's all Notre Dame needed to win it in 12.
A no doubter to left field.
Quick move to first. Putz is safe. And when asked before the game about Ryan Cole and the power or the perceived power surge, Link Jarrett said, as Bryce Hubbard lost his footing there coming off the mound.
Might have caught a spike, his back heel. Let's see if his back heel on his left foot just slipped off the rubber. Little area there, they kind of packed down the dirt about 1/4 of an inch below the edge of the rubber. I mean, might have got his foot too far on the back of the rubber and his foot just slipped off.
So move Putz into scoring position. And Ryan Cole will settle back in 1-1. As I was saying, it would seem that there was a power surge going into this past season when he had 9 home runs. He's had 2 more this year. Didn't have any in his career before. Link Jarrett says a lot of that has to do with the dimensions of the park up in South Bend and the way the wind blows up there. He said that can lead to some very misleading numbers, and the stats don't exactly tell the tale. He said he's always had sneaky power. It's just playing in the right conditions that allow you to really uncork one, which he did last night here.
Going back to the advanced base runner for Florida State's first balk of the year. 25 games into this season.
That one came in and it caught Ryan Cole.
Pop it up, and he did. Just no one was able to catch it.
Corners coming in tight. Now the middle infielders charging, and Roberts particularly. This one is popped up, laying out to try to make the play is Logan Lacey, and it looks like he shook up. Everybody's safe.
Ball popped up, and it came out good for Notre Dame. Lacey laid out on that. Trying to bruise the ribs or something. Again, might have knocked the breath out of him. It's Mike Martin Jr. is walking out to check with his senior third baseman. Brendan Stone, athletic trainer, coming out as well. You're exposed and you're extended. You go, Alex.
Yeah, you see Logan Lacey got a delayed reaction. Williams was squared around to bunt when Hubbard was just getting on the mound, but it's almost like he didn't trust the fact that the bunt was being shown. Maybe going to pull back and do something else. He didn't want to vacate third base, of course, too, but it seemed like his jump was just a little bit delayed.
Well, the big thing with that, with a pop-up bunt, if it hits the ground, the runners are holding up when the ball's popped in the air. If Hubbard could have come in and got a one-hopper, he has a play at third. That's what made Lacey hold up just a little bit. And then Lacey put on the Jets, a great infielder, a great outfielder, a great athlete, laid out, and that ball just got away from everybody. Bases loaded here, nobody out. Pop-up bunt holds those runners.
And now with the bases juiced, here's Brooks Coetzee. Vincent stays on top of it. And yesterday, after runs were few and far between, the old adage, the old trope really rings true. Get them on, get them over, get them in. And this is a chance for Notre Dame to get that done here early and afford themselves a lead. On the flip side, Alex, as a pitcher, as a defense, if you can find a way to minimize the damage or even eliminate the threat, you might be able to steal some momentum heading back to the dugout.
Absolutely. Right now you see Florida State's defense. You have your middles pinched up the middle, trying to roll a double play and minimize the damage here that Hubbard could experience with a bases loaded situation and nobody out.
Up and in it goes, 3-1. Nowhere to put Putz, the senior from Mahomet, Illinois. Another one with a batting average north of 300 in this lineup for Notre Dame.
Good location, got a piece of it as a hitter.
Hubbard has so much rotation on his pitches. The hitters in general, no matter whether it's Notre Dame or another team, generally have a hard time catching up with his pitches simply because of the amount of spin that he's delivering in his pitch.
Look for an off speed right here. 3-2 count. Maybe not. Fastball down, throwing the ball right at 90. He can reach 92, 93 miles an hour. But would love for himself to be able to get a strikeout here, then come back and maybe get a ground ball and get out of this mess. He's like Messick. He can go to another gear. He can go to another level when he needs to go. Right now, he needs to for Florida State.
Another one lifted foul. Coetzee, a guy who bats .214 with runners in scoring position, at least to this point this season.
Plus that bat here, fouling some balls off.
Pitch count at 31 for Bryce Hubbard. No outs on the board here in the top of the second. Ground ball here, will plate a run. Coetzee does his job. It's 1-0 Notre Dame. Zach Preisner steps in.
Early in the ball game, Notre Dame with one run already in. Infield is playing in for Florida State. Your offense is not getting you a lot of runs. You got to be able to cut them off when you can here. Only in the second inning.
Preisner, the shortstop, made a couple of terrific plays up the middle last night.
Mentioned Florida State, 9 right-handed batters. Notre Dame with a couple switch hitters at the top of the order, 8 right-handed batters and a left-handed hitting catcher at the bottom of the order.
Fastball strike there to make it 2-1. Make it 2-2.
Good pitch there. Other than the pop-up bunt, foul on strike one, Hubbard's been behind every batter so far today. Good pitch.
Hubbard does a great job locating that fastball in the in and outside part of the plates, and the Notre Dame hitters just have to pick a side on what they want to hit.
Got him. Another fastball, this one up for strikeout number 1 for Bryce Hubbard.
Best fastball of the day, a little life on it, 91 miles an hour, up in the zone.
And that'll bring up Danny Neri, a guy who platoons at the catcher position with David LaManna. Strike on the corner. This inning started with a well-hit ball by Carter Putz. A hit by pitch to Ryan Cole. It'll end with a ground ball. Batting average at .269, 3 home runs, including one last weekend against Duke. Chased a ball down in the dirt and will be retired at first for the strikeout.
Just to make a lot of notes, coaching days, see a batter chase a ball in the dirt, you make plenty of notes. In my job as assistant coach, I would turn to Coach Martin Sr., and all I would say to him is he'll chase. And he calls the pitches, but I would remind him he will chase the ball, as Brett Roberts did right there. I'm not saying he does it all the time here, ball one here.
But that's why scouting is so important too, because then it kind of expands the zone for your pitcher in that situation. 0-2, so ahead in the count that he can kind of throw whatever he wants, knowing that the batter might bite.
1-1 the count to Trayton Rank as his head coach Mike Martin Jr. looks on.
Good location, fastball low and away, touching 89 miles an hour. Trayton Rank started at shortstop beginning of the year when Carrion was injured. First start in a while, and I believe his first start of the year in left field.
Good stuff there from Trayton Rank. It's been a minute since we've seen him step in for a plate appearance, makes this one count, and works a one-out walk.
Finley's first walk of the year.
But to your point, Chip, started the year at short. Jordan Carrion was a bit banged up. They didn't want to force the issue here in Tallahassee, so Rank moved over and got the start at short. Then when Carrion rejoined the lineup in the midweek, he moved over to second. So now this is the third different position that Trayton Rank has earned a start.
That's what they tell you when you're being recruited as a young athlete, is be multidimensional, play many positions so that when your time comes, you have the ability to start no matter where it is.
Trayton Rank's one of those ball players that comes into college. 6'2", 6'3", about 220. Big, strong young man. He's going to get bigger, better, and stronger, and get an opportunity to play maybe the next level. Big body.
His teammate Colton Vincent, the junior from Palmetto, Florida, majoring in criminology, steps in. Batting average at .215, 7 RBI. And he has been swinging a better bat of late. This gapper drops, and Florida State's got multiple men on. Grome missed the cutoff man, but covered well at third by Brannigan.
Great approach by Colton Vincent, junior catcher for Florida State. Fouled a ball off the opposite way, came back, pitch up in the zone, just drove it to right center.
Vincent did a good job letting this ball get deep in the zone and not trying to do too much with it, just kind of peppering it the other way. He was one of 4 Seminoles yesterday that got a hit. He was 1 for 3 on the day in last night's game, and overall seeing the ball really well.
Isaiah Perry getting the start in center. Checks in and thought about laying down a bunt. Offered at it, popped it backwards. And so the senior from Pembroke Pines will try again with an 0-1 count. .263 the batting average, 2 RBI.
Two-step guy, 2 steps, he's wide open, running, trying to get that push bunt by Finley, the left-handed pitcher.
Found that one off of himself. Linus Baker on top of it, calling everybody off. Baker calling the balls and strikes at home plate, joined by Doug Vines at first, Tim Rosso at second, Adam Dowdy, yesterday's home plate umpire, at third.
Players sitting around all day. These gentlemen here sat around all day, putting to play this ball game. Assigned by the ACC.
0-2 the count to Perry. Tried to hold up. And on the appeal to first, Doug Vine says he did so.
Big breaking ball there, Alex, on a 0-2 count. Try to give him a nibble.
It's hard to lay off a pitch like that.
Took one more. He's tagged out to complete the process of the strikeout.
Nasty off-speed pitch down in the zone. Isaiah Perry just kind of chases, but Chip, you know, we talked about it yesterday, just really needing to put the ball in play and apply the pressure to the defense. And these Florida State hitters need to do something with the runners on base and in scoring position.
That's why you have the change in the lineup today. A lot of changes.
Obviously caught a piece of that one, had me fooled for a second. It goes 2-2 now to Isaiah Perry.
Finley relying on that big breaking ball.
Pickoff move to second, Rank underneath the tag. Elevated to center. Williams covers ground, Rank scampers back, runners have to hold. Quality play by the sophomore in center.
Making pitch, went down and got him. It got under it a little bit too much, Alex, and just you got a guy in center field that can cover ground out there, and TJ Williams.
So that brings up Cade Bush. Excuse me, Jordan Carrion. Will be Bush to follow if Carrion finds a way aboard.
See the bottom of your screen in the center field shot. Trayton Rank at second base, moving around. They can Finley think a little bit out there.
Sharply hit ball through the right side. The line drive from Jordan Carrion. Misplayed and right by Coatsy, and Trayton Rank will score easily. 1-all, bottom second.
Fastball just drove it the other way, Alex. That's what you draw it up. Bobbled ball in right field.
A pitch on the inner part of the plate. Carrion does such a great job keeping his hands close to his body, allowing his bat head to get through the zone, and just peppers that ball to the right side of the field.
And Link Jarrett's going to make a trip out. And a signal already made to the bullpen on his way out, meaning Jack Finley's day is done. Third start of the season for Finley, fourth appearance of the season in total, second this week. And so as they make their pitching change and they bring in Jackson Deniz, we'll take a break and be right back. Jack Finley got the start here today for Notre Dame, and that start has come to a close here in the bottom of the second. Had a few innings of work in the midweek, but really it was something that Link Jarrett said, what a tremendous opportunity for me to get my youngster out there and to see what he's made of and to see what he can do in a moment in a stage like this. He ends up going 1 2/3, throws 34 pitches, 2 hits, an earned run, a walk, and a strikeout. So as he exits and Jackson Denny steps in. We'll check in with Alexandra DeCapua.
Yeah, guys, I spoke with Coach today about the decision to start the freshman, and he said, honestly, I just want to get him experience. He's been learning under these 4 really talented lefties that we have, and those guys might not be here next season. So he just wanted to give him the experience. He said he didn't expect much. He just wants him to get used to being on the mound in these high-pressure situations. So I'm sure he's not terribly disappointed with his show out today.
Thank you so much, Alexandra. And quickly, a response from Mike Martin Jr. after the pitching change. With the righty pitcher, he brings in Alex Terrell. Cade Bush won't even step into the box.
What happens on the field? But I'm not going to say anything.
Neither am I. Back to the top of the order here with Spencer Myers. Batting 176 against lefties and against righties. Has been a consistent starter for Notre Dame over the last few seasons, and not only that, led Notre Dame, or co-led it, I should say, in hits with Carter Putz, each with 57 a season ago. Also led the club in hits and batting average as a sophomore and in the COVID campaign. I'm not even sure how to classify the COVID campaign. That's going to be a fun little wrinkle in a whole bunch of guys' academic years for years and years to come. This one's lifted to center. Isaiah Perry has a read on it, the glove on it.
Hubbard is a type of pitcher for Florida State we mentioned earlier. Has great stuff, great breaking stuff, changeup. Does not throw the fastball in as much as Parker Messick or Beltran did last night. But he will paint the outside part of the plate, but good as anybody.
Worked away with the fastball there to Jared Miller.
The thing I've noticed too about Hubbard is he stays generally around the zone, whereas Parker Messick goes right into the zone and attacks the hitters. Hubbard kind of tries to get them out on their own game a little bit more.
He squares off with the 2-time team captain in Jared Miller. Flying out to left, back in the first.
Jimmy Bellinger, Florida State's pitching coach, communicates with his pitchers out there every outing, practice, scrimmage, game, about the standard of having everything, your pitch ratio 64% or better on strikes. Messick did not walk anybody last night. How many did he punch out?
11.
He was below standard with 63% strikes. I'll take that any weekend on a Friday.
Below standard, gets you 8 full innings of work.
Yeah.
Only 2 hits given up, no earned runs. If that's below standard, sign me up. Another one to center field. Miller didn't quite catch all of it. And Isaiah Perry makes another play, this time albeit a few steps deeper straight away. And that'll bring up Jack Brannigan. Coming into this weekend series, Brannigan was on an 8-game hitting streak that did come to an end last night. And had been doing some considerably good work against conference teams, had 3 multiple hit games against conference opponents in the middle of that 8-game hitting streak. he gets on base, has plenty of speed and puts it on display. I think Jarrett says he's the fastest guy on campus. It's quite the statement as we take a look at the pitch to make it 2-2.
Said he does not pitch much inside. That was a great fastball in on the knees.
Golf down to play.
I had a coach call me the fastest on the team before, or the fastest on campus before. No, never. Never.
But you were on the 2016 Women's College World Series All-Tournament team.
Yes,
You're an
sir.
ACC Player of the Year. I think you can live with those titles. Women's College World Series participant. And Bryce Hubbard can certainly live with the strikeout in a 1-2-3 inning here in the third. Back to more business as usual for the Seminole Southpaw as he works through Myers, Miller, and Brannigan and picks up his second strikeout of the game. Tyler Martin has picked up a bat and is ready to get back after it here. For those of you who have just joined us, a retooled Florida State lineup. A lot of fresh faces, some guys in different positions. Trayton Rank got a start in the outfield. And there's some guys that you would be used to seeing in the starting lineup that haven't been. In fact, Alex Terrell is one of them. He's been a staple at first. Had a hamstring, somewhat of an injury. He pulled up on the run to first late in the game yesterday. Was working through that, clearly good to go today. Coaches were inclined to rest him, and clearly a conversation had over there in that dugout, and they've decided that with the new pitcher and the righty-lefty matchup to go ahead and give him a shot here. Kate Bush would have been the guy to step in had the starting pitcher, Jack Finley, continued to this point.
Back-to-back changeups. Had him out in front, 0-2.
Lays off the off speed, down and away. But then goes down on the fourth pitch he sees. All off speed to Alex Terrell.
And let's take a look at the pitches Terrell saw. Just a little bit down and on the outer part of the plate. And we take a look here, and he just kind of pulls that front shoulder a little bit on those pitches that are a little bit more down and out in the zone. And if he just kind of extends those hands and that bat barrel through the zone a little bit longer, he might get more of a piece of that ball.
In college, pitchers, first thing they learn when they get on campus, pitching coaches teach changeup. Those kids got by in high school throwing that big fastball, big breaking ball, but you have to be able to throw a changeup to be effective in college. And you got to credit Notre Dame. A couple guys we've seen that had very good changeups.
It's all about the off speed. The difference in velocity is going to be huge and make or break for hitters too, because you have to learn how to hit pitches at multiple different speeds.
Oh, and 2.
If that's a changeup or a little cutter or slider, a little off here. As you mentioned, 0-2. This guy gets ahead and stays ahead.
Fourth appearance on the season for Jackson Denny's. Has gone as many as 2 innings. That came at Louisville on March 18th.
Good eye there by Farrell. Got the change up or the slider down.
Hot shot right back at Denny's. Ferrer hustling down the line and is safe.
Been working down and away and came back fastball up in the zone, and he just powered it back up the middle.
Kind of got it in on his hands, just a little bit of a fisted job, but Ferrer does such a good job keeping his hands tight to his body, aggressive through the zone. And Denny's just, I think, kind of tricked him out a little bit. I don't know that it was as hard as it might have seemed off the bat, and you saw the fumble that happened a little bit, just got too far away from him.
And what I want to also talk about, Alex, Jared Miller made a decision not to try to force a throw into first after that initial bobble. And I know as a first baseman yourself, when somebody tries some Hail Mary attempt to muscle a throw into you with a runner closing in, oftentimes that's going to cause more harm than good. You can appreciate your second baseman holding off there.
Absolutely. Those rushed throws become a little bit errant and a little scary as a first baseman, because they're out of control. So it was the right move not to throw that ball.
Again, this is a Notre Dame defense as Tyler Martin steps in that does not commit very many errors. Their fielding percentage is amongst the tops in the entire NCAA. Veteran laden, they know what they're doing. Brock Mathis got the start as the DH. Now it's Tyler Martin pinch hitting for him here in the third.
She goes for it. I don't want to leave her hanging.
Another 1-2 coming, make it 2-2.
Well, kind of in the midst of the duration of the season, and what does that balance look like? And that's what a good coach does, is they manage that timeliness so well.
Ball well off the plate. Quality job by Neri, staying behind it and keeping it from getting to the backstop. Logan Lacey grounded out to end the first.
Worked the fastball up in the zone. Tyler Martin at first base, laid off of it. Logan Lacey did as well, 2-0.
Two and one, fastball away.
Pitcher's pitch. On the knees on the outside. Strike one.
Denny's, like so many of these players, has a family member who has played baseball and or softball previously. In this case, it's his mom, Sherry Denny's, who played softball at Nichols State. Her son trying to get out of this 3-1 multiple runners aboard situation in Tallahassee, bottom of the third. Instead, he walks Logan Lacey and will soon face Brett Roberts.
Base runners are few and far between last night's ball game. Right now, Florida State has a chance here in the bottom of the third, middle part of the order. Bases loaded. Brett Roberts looking for a ball he can do some damage with. Typically, he swings early in the count.
Doesn't waste much time finding one he likes and pulling the trigger, as you mentioned. Did strike out to start the second, batting average at .266. Linus Baker coming out to the bump.
He relied on his changeup. Terrell at the plate. Terrell, left-handed batter, has not thrown that changeup much to right-handed batters.
I think I've seen that move a time or two before, Chip. Catcher goes out, catcher comes back, head coach goes out.
Had a longtime baseball fan in this ballpark. Has been coming here before I was been here. And he sent me a text last night. Link Jarrett learned that stall tactic from one guy we all know very well. Number 11.
And so the pitching change in effect here. Jackson Denny's day is done. And Will Mercer will be checking in for Notre Dame in his place. Bases loaded, bottom of the third. The plot thickens here in Tallahassee. We'll be back in a moment. Jackson Denny's day is done after he came in relief of Jack Finley, who got the start for Notre Dame this afternoon in Tallahassee. So pitcher number 3 in inning number 3 for Link Jarrett and the Fighting Irish. And it's Will Mercer, the senior from Houston, Texas, taking over. A guy who made a number of starts previous to this season. 11, in fact, a season ago. Also earned some saves, including one against Clemson last year. This year, ERA sits at 6 through 3 innings of work. Couple of hits, 4 strikeouts, 3 walks.
Opportunity to come in the ball game here. As mentioned, has not pitched much this year, only his 3rd outing of the year. Experienced guy. Bring him in the right situation here.
There's 7 innings in the regional against UConn. So he gets back after it here. If you're Link Jarrett, turn to that experienced arm here in a high leverage situation early. Florida State threatening again.
Chip, if you're Brett Roberts, do you swing early in the count right now off a new pitcher?
Well, that's what he likes to do. I think you're going to look for something you can do some damage with. Ball, fastball down. It's not like he's walked guys. Nowhere to put him.
Came in with the fastball. It goes 2-0. Now the Animals of Section B, they rotate that duck floaty around. If I'm not mistaken, one of the rules is somebody new has to wear the duck floaty.
Badge of honor.
Ground ball up the middle. Could turn 2. Indeed, they do. 4th, 55 pitches in total. And he'll square off with Carter Putz. And this is the exact portion of the lineup where the Fighting Irish were able to put together some pretty good hitting in the second, and were able to scratch across the opening run of this ball game. It was Putz, a hard hit ball into left that got the party started. A hit by pitch, a bunt single, an RBI ground out would all follow. Hubbard now working ahead, and that'll bring up some K-time chance.
Hubbard does a great job utilizing all quadrants of the zone as a pitcher. He throws it up, he throws it down, and he really keeps the hitters guessing what speed of pitch he's going to throw. He's got several pitches in his repertoire, and he just throws them all so consistently within his motion.
A couple of breaking balls from Hubbard, and the count goes full to Putz.
Working on his footing up there on the mound. You saw him balk earlier in the game, trying to get that dirt like he wants it.
That ball is drilled out to left center field, and it is well gone. Carter Putz puts one over the facility and well into the parking lot. have yourself a game. This one short hops its way into Coetzee.
Coetzee doing his job as a hitter. Stay in the box, make the catcher run around, try to find the ball, which he made Vincent do. You don't have to get out of the guy's way. Obviously, you can't stand over him and swing the bat at him or something, but they can force you out of the way.
Fastball inside makes it 2-0. Batting average a touch below 300 for Brooks at 297. Set a career high mark in hits last season with 40. That included 8 doubles, drove in 29 runs, stole 11 bases. Also had 6 home runs. That was good for third most on the team. Has recorded a hit in the vast majority of the games that Notre Dame has played this season, and he's got a hitter's count here.
Got to locate the fastball in. That's one thing, the experience. Bryce Hubbard stepped off the rubber, went back, gathered his thoughts. Back here to go on the 3-1 count.
There's another hit by pitch. And Mike Martin Jr. is making a trip out to have a chat with Bryce Hubbard.
I always love when the hitters get a little bit spicy on a hit by pitch. Like, come on, guy, it's 2-1. We're not trying to put you on base. We're trying to get outs.
And we will have a pitching change here in Tallahassee. Jackson Baumeister gets the call as he gets warm. We'll take a quick commercial break here at Hauser. Bryce Hubbard's day is done earlier than he would have hoped, but still gets a good show of support by his fellow teammates and the 2 other weekend starters leading the charge. As Jackson Baumeister takes over to relieve Hubbard. You're the freshman from Jacksonville, Florida, who's majoring in finance and getting into the swing of things, getting into a groove here on the mound. Has an 0-2 record, ERA's at 4.32. It was up in the 8s earlier on this season, so he's really been settling in a little bit better here. 8 1/3 combined innings of work, 8 hits, 14 strikeouts, 6 walks.
It's ironic we waited 4 hours today because you didn't want to start a ball game and have it rain and mess up a starting pitcher. Thinking of last night's ball game and how quickly the game was progressing. 6-7 innings into the ball game, we were about an hour and a half into the game. Not that you ever look at a clock at a ball game, but now both teams, this is going to be a bullpen game. Both teams are deep into their bullpen.
And that's what's going to be so interesting, too, about tomorrow's matchup. Just looking ahead, even if we split today and Florida State wins this game and Notre Dame won yesterday, tomorrow is going to be the rubber match, and it's all about the bullpen and the depth at that point.
The shortstop, Preisner, elevates this one high in the air out to right field.
Got to play.
And the relay to third gets away. Baumeister gets off the mound and covers.
Tagging up, and the ball, you got a great throwing arm in right field. The ball just gets away from Lacey there at third base. Makes a catch. You may have a quick play. We may have a play.
He was tagging before the runner got there, before the ball got there.
He was great point there. He was about 3 or 4 steps off the bag, but once Ferreira caught the ball, he tagged up and went. Both the runners advanced, and that ball getting away from Lacey. 2 out. two-base error there. Error was charged to Logan Lacey at third base.
So it's Cole on at third, Coetzee on at second. A ground ball pulled to Alex Terrell, who goes back to Baumeister.
It's rodeo.
He's done this.
Came to Florida State. Of course he's smart.
This one's a mile high in the air, out to the fence. And the center fielder, Williams, comes in just shy of the track. And so I mentioned how Link Jarrett has done this. Well, take a look at this. Marshall McDougal Day, a day in which Marshall McDougal hit 6 home runs. Gene Deckerhoff, the legendary play-by-play voice of the Florida State Seminoles for what was then the Sunshine Network, called that game at the University of Maryland, and was joined by one Link Jarrett, who was a color analyst on the Sunshine Network for a period of 5 years. It overlapped the tail end of his playing career and then into the beginning of his coaching career. He started at Flagler College, and he said, you know, we didn't always play on Sundays, and so whenever I had a free Sunday, they encouraged me to go. They said it was a good thing for me, for baseball, and for the program alike. So it allowed me to continue commentating for a period of 5 years, and he really enjoyed it.
Got to work with the voice,
And
Gene
I can
Deckerhoff.
personally attest that talking the game definitely helps you then regurgitate and teach the game.
And Colton Vincent drops that one into the glove of the left fielder, Ryan Cole.
Tibbs had a well-hit ball, just got it under. We thought when that ball was hit, you're looking at the outfielders. That ball there by Vincent had too much air under it. Ryan Cole just ran right to it.
And here comes Reese Albert. The senior from Jupiter, Florida, majoring in sport management. Just saw a fastball inside for ball one. Batting average of .365, 10 RBI for Albert. Only one way to add to that total in this particular AB. And those folks with their Reese Albert cutouts would certainly not hate to see it. Drops down the bunt. Mercer could not field it. A high bouncer with a little backspin.
Bunt hits the plate up in the air and get a chance. That ball's in the air, came down. Again, Albert running well. Reese Albert's been platooned a lot this year, facing predominantly right-handed pitching, but Reese Albert right now is 8 out of 12 versus left-handers.
It's his experience, I think. You know, just his experience that he brings to the box every single time allows him to see a lot of pitches in the box and then kind of try to go into his toolbox a little bit more and see what he can dig out. That bunt was perfectly placed.
And that brings up Jordan Carrion, who lined one into right field back in the second to, at that point, tie the game 1 apiece. This one's popped foul, offered at it.
Good bad angle, just bunted it straight down and came back up and popped him. The old adage, perfect or foul.
That one got away from the plate. Reese Albert will try to advance all the way to third. Neri could not find it, and Albert is safe 90 feet away.
Experience there, Reese Albert watching the play, making a big turnaround second base. See the ball's all the way to the backstop. The old express, first to third.
And it puts Jordan Carrion in prime position to drive in another game-tying run. He goes down swinging, ball down in the dirt, throw to first on the money, and that will retire the Seminole shortstop in strength. Top of the order, Spencer Myers will lead things off as he did in the first and in the third. Ground ball just by the glove of Baumeister. Nice play by Brett Roberts. Roberts, a guy who predominantly has started at third this season, making the move to the middle of the infield, and with more on Florida State's converted corner infielder to middle infielder, here's Alexandra DeCapua.
Yeah, guys, with Tyler Martin making his first appearance back since March 4th last night, some moves were made in this FSU defense. One being Brett Roberts, who has played right, third, and DH for the Noles, but moved to second last night. With over 90 at-bats and sitting at around 270, Brett had the first hit of the night for the Noles last night in the bottom of the fifth, and has made some great plays at second. So the Tennessee Tech transfer has proven to be a great offensive and defensive weapon for the Noles.
That he has. Thank you so much, Alexandra. I'll tell you what, Jackson Baumeister can be a real weapon for Florida State as well. The stuff is legit. Was in that starting conversation when Jimmy Bellinger, Mike Martin Jr. and company weren't exactly sure who was going to be the Sunday guy. His name came up a few times, and when you look again at the stuff, you can see exactly why. Hard hit, back to Roberts. Always seems to find the new guy. He floats the throw into Terrell, no problem.
Brett Roberts' glove work is so smooth, too. His approach to the ball, his feet are so quiet and steady. That never seems to be out of control. And his approach, his glove is just so squared off to the ball. He seems like it is just a seamless effort every single time the ball's hit his way.
One hopper.
We call it a Sunday hop, huh?
Gotcha.
Sunday hop on a Saturday night. Can't complain.
Baumeister on the mound, a classic hands over the head, wind up, and he lets it go, and he has great extension. Talk about the fastball has late life. It stays up in the zone, but it's coming at you pretty hard.
Brannigan, the third baseman who can also pitch some, saws this one off to right. Ferrer has a good read on it, and that is a really efficient inning of work. Had another shot of Alex Terrell's coffee, as we did last night. I know I was staring at my ceiling fan for about 3 hours. Not sure if that's to blame or not, but going to sleep was a pretty tough task. Terrell struck out in the third when he also led off the inning for Florida State. Saw a whole lot of off speed. That was from Jackson Denny's, who came in initially to relieve Jack Finley. He gave way to Will Mercer, who induced a 4.63 to get Notre Dame out of the inning. Florida State was in good position to, at that point, take the lead until Carter Putz put one over the facility in left center in the very next half inning to make it 2-1, where it now stands. Ground ball here into the shift. And played well by the second baseman, Jared Miller.
What the shift has done is taken away a base hit. Your second baseman is well out there in the outfield grass. Normally that ball was through the right side, and it's a base hit. That's what the shift has done. Everybody's playing the percentages these days. One out there.
And Alex, sorry, Chip, I wanted to go back to that because you made a very interesting point. Chip is about the shift, and Florida State does it a lot. And Alex, you asked Link earlier today about, you guys don't shift all that much. What goes into the ideology, the mentality there?
Yeah, and he said that they reference so much their analytics, and it's also what opposing hitters do, but also what their pitchers' tendencies are. And so, Florida State sells out so often for the shift, and Terrell is really the only player on the Florida State offense that Notre Dame is shifting for. And he said that, we rely so heavily on our pitchers hitting their spots and what hitters tend to do when our pitchers are on, and that's how we play the game. Less about what the hitters do, more about what our pitchers do. It's an interesting concept, the combination of the analytics versus just knowing the game and watching the game play out itself.
Going back to the days when I was coaching, again, you talked 20 plus years ago, when Link Jarrett played at Florida State, we had some pretty good arms on the mound. You had Paul Wilson, Jonathan Johnson, David Yoakum, 93, 94, 97. Guys who could throw it. Played a lot of guys away because we pitched a lot of guys away, stuck the fastball in. Fair strikes out there. Been working him away. Hit the big breaker.
And so that brings up Tyler Martin.
But going back to what you mentioned, Alex, you play the shift, you better pitch to it.
It's a sellout. You have to sell out for it. And you either commit 100% or you don't at all. And, you show yourself off.
Tyler Martin walked in the pinch hitting role back in the third at Sean and saw a bunch of pitches, walked on a 3-2 count.
Really extended the inning for Florida State with one out on the board. Ferrer singled back to the pitcher at the time, again, Denny's. And then it was Tyler Martin's walk, followed by a walk to Logan Lacey that loaded him up before the double play following the pitching change to this guy, Will Mercer.
You're talking about the guy at the plate has not seen live pitching. Last night was his first full ball game since last June, 10 months ago. And he fouled some balls off, he dumped a double in left field, but he had one at bat, popped it up deep to right field, just missed it.
His approach right now, you can't tell that he hasn't seen live at bats that often, especially in game-like situations. Of course, practice is one thing, but his ability to be patient in the box and kind of work through and just allow the pitcher to come to him and give him what they've got, it's really impressive.
We'll take a look at a 2-2 here from Mercer. Out on the corner and away for ball 3.
Back-to-back 3-2 counts for Tyler Martin.
And that's the beauty of seeing live arms a lot in practice, is your strike recognition and the way in which you can tell balls from strikes.
Spoiled strike 3 there, fouled off the fastball.
Swings is a good bat plane right through the zone, but then timing's not there. It's going to come.
Another one off the netting. Got him. Fastball up. Fans Tyler Martin. That's not easy to do. A guy who puts a lot of balls in play, sees the ball well, records a ton of hits ordinarily coming into pinch hit, and is fanned by Mercer, who goes 1, 2, 3. Let's go ahead and take a look at our game summary. We'll start in the second. Bases loaded for Notre Dame. Brooks Coetzee does his job. The 4-3 ground out plates Carter Putz. Jordan Carrion, bottom of the same inning, would go through the right side and plate a fellow fresh face for Florida State, Trayton Rank, who got the start in left field. Carrion fired up, but then fast forward to the fourth, and it's Putz again with some fireworks, his second hit of the day, and it was a loud one. Into the parking lot, might have caught a windshield. And that's the difference maker as it stands. 2-1 Notre Dame to this point in the game. And guess who will lead things off again? Carter Putz stepping in. Interestingly enough, the first, the third, and the fifth inning for Notre Dame have all started at the very top of the order with the DH Spencer Myers. The second, the fourth, and now the sixth have all started with Carter Putz.
You always have the good tidbits of information, Sean. And then you have Chip over here, who's the encyclopedia. I'm surrounded by greatness.
Says the one who played into 2 World Series, walked off Florida, was a player of the year in the ACC. Don't sandbag yourself now.
Doing what we can.
Tell you what, Jackson Baumeister's doing what he can, and it is pretty darn good. Fastball at 95, and that is the first time Putz has been retired tonight.
Phenomenal job by Baumeister here. He just absolutely
Climb the ladder.
Yeah, delivers that fastball so well in the zone. I couldn't even come up with the words for it. Just absolutely fans Putz on 3 straight pitches.
Located that first one, just kept going up with it with a lot of life.
I feel like you don't see 3 straight fastballs very often.
We have one like that at 95, and that ball, as we mentioned, that ball just kind of stays in the zone and a little bit of hop at the end of it.
Ryan Cole has yet to register an official at-bat to this point. He's been hit by a couple of pitches.
Yeah, that last one too, he didn't like so much either when he was hit in the fourth inning. Kind of gave Hubbard a little bit of a glare on it.
And works ahead here 2-1.
There's the big breaking ball.
For the most part offensively, it's still been Putz and Cole that have gotten it done for Notre Dame. A bunt single today for the center fielder TJ Williams is the only other base hit of any kind for a Notre Dame hitter.
Minimal offense all the way around yesterday and today. These pitchers are doing such a great job, all of them really, keeping the opposing hitters off balance and continuing to guess what pitch they're about to throw.
Used to seeing Parker Messick for Florida State pitching very quick tempo. Bryce Hubbard, very quick tempo. This guy here on the mound for Florida State Ballmaster, he kind of slows it down a little bit. Great focus. Brings it.
Fastball down and in, fouled off, and it caught Linus Baker as well.
Right off the shin. You can wear what you want to back there. Chest protector, shin guards, helmet. When you get a ball throwing 94, 95 miles an hour, gets foul tipped, picks up a little speed, as they say. You'll feel that one tomorrow morning. Catcher goes to the mound. Vincent, Colton Vincent is not counted as a trip, as they call it these days. It's kind of
courtesy.
Everybody happy.
It would be the second strikeout for Baumeister tonight. Instead, Ryan Cole walks.
Center fielder, number 6, TJ Williams.
And that'll bring up TJ Williams. Yesterday, Williams, the only underclassman in the lineup for Notre Dame. Today, one of two when you add in Danny Neri.
Look at your defense. Normally one out, maybe you're back in double play depth. Logan Lacey has to play in because TJ Williams has put the ball on the ground twice. Sacrifice bunt, like a push bunt, and also third base side. This is the bunting situation.
In fact, the bunt single was one that Logan Lacey tried to run up, charge up, lay out in field, and ended up knocking the wind out of himself in the process. Nobody else was able to get over there, get on top of it, and throw a dart into first to retire Williams, so he was stationed at first with the bunt single.
Both those times he's been up, first and second. First time up, as you mentioned, he popped up the bunt. Here's a quick move to first. It was a bunting situation, nobody out, but he put down a sacrifice, the base hit bunt. And that makes Lacey play in, which opens up the left side some. You may see every time he gets a strike, Lacey may go back a couple steps. There's more tendency to bump with no strikes.
Williams, a guy who shared that center field spot with the DH today, Spencer Myers, has started really the last 10 games in center for Link Jarrett. Played 13 games a season ago, then went and played in the Northwoods League. Some of these teams in these summer ball leagues, they've got some pretty cool names. The Kalamazoo Growlers.
Good leagues, very good leagues. Cool name there. up there in Michigan, I guess, right?
Yeah. Cole off and running. I'll tell you what, nobody is safe in that home dugout. We have seen weekends where a ball hardly travels over there, and I swear it's got to be somewhere around 15 have ended up near that home dugout today.
I still need to get my tutorial on how to turn on a ball that much to make it go right there in the dugout.
Jackson Green didn't look particularly worried. He was just giving it a good, cold, hard stare. 2-2 coming.
Quick bat, fastball up in the end, and got around and pulled it foul to the left side.
Good battle here.
Previous play, the 2-1 straight hit and run with Cole at first base.
Baumeister has gone 2 full innings of work to this point. Big breaker in there for strike 3.
That pitch from Baumeister just falls off the table, has so much bend in it, and he hits his spot so effectively on that pitch.
It was a fastball, 95 miles an hour, and came back. As mentioned, he threw the big bender earlier to a previous batter. Big bite in the late bite in it.
Yeah, that's nasty.
Look at the spin of it, probably from 12 to 6, right on, straight over, up and down.
And so now he inherits the right fielder, Brooks Coetzee. I'll tell you what, Jackson Baumeister understands the assignment over at first, trying to keep Ryan Cole honest. Guy with real good speed. 9 for 9 on his stolen base attempts.
Nothing wrong with trying to get to second base with 2 out.
Another check.
Keeping him honest over at first base.
Baumeister has a pickoff this year. Teams are 1 out of 1 in stolen base attempts with him, but he does what base runners hate. He holds the ball a long time. Kind of very deliberate to the plate.
Inside to Coetzee.
We heard that one. Pop in the mitt, Vincent's mitt behind the plate.
That one up. And this will officially be the longest outing for Jackson Baumeister to this point. Now at 2 1/3 innings of work. His previous high was a full 2 innings against NC State a couple weekends ago. Trying to get through this inning. There's a strike off the foul ball. Coetzee, like Cole, was hit by a pitch a couple of innings ago. He also drove in the opening run of the game, grounding out to second. Did his job with the ground ball behind the lead runner. Florida State went with the out, conceded the run. And he's lifted this ball into left center field. Reese Albert ranges over and secures it. The crowd that Florida State would have thought they would have had or hoped they would have had, but still, to see this many people come back out after 4 hours is nice to see.
This is better than what was planned if this game was rained out today, a doubleheader tomorrow beginning at 11 a.m. So that's not going to happen. We're playing baseball here. You do have to finish this game, but the sky looks good tonight, as you mentioned.
We're thankful for that, Chip.
Lacey with a ground out, also walked in the first and the third. Knowles will go 3-4-5. Lacey, Roberts, Tibbs here to start off the sixth. And that's a leadoff hit by pitch.
I gotta find Brock.
A one-run ball game. Need a base runner. Florida State has something going here in the sixth.
And so Brett Roberts steps in for the first time since the third. And Link Jarrett wants Linus Baker and this umpiring crew to discuss, I imagine, whether, and that it's Brett Roberts is stepping up for the first time since the third when he grounded into a 4-6-3 double play and got Notre Dame out of a sticky situation. In doing so, bases were loaded at that point, one out on the board, and so they were able to get back to the dugout and keep a run from coming across. Sharply hit ground ball through the right side. Lacey tries to pull up at second, throw airmails Miller at second. And so Lacey is safe. And the plot thickens.
Lacey had a big turnaround second base. As that ball was hit pretty good, and Brooks Coatsy at right field did a good job of charging that ball. Nobody out. Lacey had second thoughts of, I better not get thrown out going to third base here. Nobody out on a one-run ball game.
Yeah, any other time that might have been a good base running play to try to force the defender to make a good throw in Coatsy in right field. But again, with no outs, you don't want to get that first or third out over at third base.
110 miles an hour off the bat of Brett Roberts. And James Tibbs now steps in.
Roberts did a good job too, just allowing that ball to get deep in the zone and just kind of trying to poke it the other way. The defense was shifted a little bit. The middles were pinched up the middle. You had your third baseman in to cover for the bunt. And Brett just did a really good job, just again, simplifying the game and just going the other way.
Tibbs, a guy who has a big bat and it's come through in big moments. And a big cut there.
Mercer's extending the most he's pitched all year. His pitch count, the more he's thrown all year. His first of 3 outings. Back in March 6th, he threw 31 pitches. March 18th, he threw 22. See him at 35 pitches today.
This time showing bunt on a ball well out wide. Tying and go-ahead run stationed at second and at first.
Tibbs showing bunt has not put a bunt down as a Seminole, and I can probably bet you he's never put a bunt down as a high school player.
Look at all that motion.
And all the motion you're seeing is a shortstop. Praisner was kicking the runner, Lacey back at second, and now they go what we call split the infield. The infield middle's wide open.
Yeah.
They're trying to get a play at third.
And as soon as Tibbs shows the bunt, you have Preisner over at short trying to cover the second base runner in Lacey. And again, not trying to do too much, not trying to allow him to get too far off the base and keep him honest. But there's so much movement right now with Preisner at short.
I don't expect them to do much here with 2 strikes.
1-2 coming. Down in the dirt.
It is a huge gamble to have that play. If you get the bunt down, the third baseman's fielding the ball. It's a race between her, or unless it's a force play at third with runners on first and second. But it's pretty much a race between the runner at second and the shortstop.
And the foot race is never easy because the defender is trying to field the ball or catch the ball too, which just adds another complication to it.
It's a huge gamble play. I've always called it the split the middle here. The wheel play or split the middle.
Now the count 2-2 coming. On the corner.
Pitch by Mercer, nasty, just on the outer part of the plate, and Tibbs just doesn't seem to recognize it. He kind of freezes for a second there and just watches strike 3.
In the ACC, you're not going to have someone throw you a fastball in that situation. Big breaking ball. Great performance here by Mercer, getting a huge out here in the 6th inning.
3 full innings of work for Will Mercer, and he gets through it without giving up a run. Only a couple of hits, and a pitching change coming for Notre Dame. Liam Simon gets the call to come in relief here tonight. The junior from Freehold, New Jersey, takes over. He, like Jack Finley, who got the start here today, predominantly has been a midweek starter for Notre Dame. So this is his 5th appearance. 5.40 ERA through a combined 6 2/3. Couple of hits, 11 strikeouts, 6 walks to this point for Simon.
And Sean, we started to touch on it a little bit earlier today and mentioned it briefly yesterday too. The more times that both teams are bringing pitchers in from the bullpen, the more it's going to affect tomorrow's game. It's going to affect tomorrow's game because it's an action in that regard. But it really is, because how much depth does each side have? And I think right now that's what tomorrow's rubber match is going to come down to, depending on who takes today's game too.
I'm still Team Impact.
Just avoid the difficult verbiage.
Exactly. Keep it super simple.
Except Colton Vincent, the first time he's faced a right-handed pitcher today's game. He swung the bat pretty good, single to right, and a pretty good fly ball to left field as the last at-bat, but both off left-handed pitchers.
And Chip, even when he has been getting balls to drop in gaps or getting them through the left or right side of the infield, he's hit balls hard all season long. That one nearly clipped Vincent, got all the way to the backstop. And speaking of hard, trying 98 on for size.
98 at the head? I mean, who would be timid at all?
Get out of the way in a hurry.
No, thank you.
This ball airmailed, get the head out of the way, but it airmailed his catcher.
I'm pretty sure Jonas Scalaro in the background just went, wow.
And it bruised the padding behind home plate. Put a little dent in it. See there? There's a dent up there about midways up.
Liam Simon didn't give me a chance to say that, speaking of hard, that's the MO. He throws hard. Straight gas.
Difference of 1-1 and 2-0. Swung at a pitch up and in. I'm not facing 98 miles an hour.
Tying run 90 feet away. Can you get one on the ground? Can you elevate one enough?
39.
Here's the thing. If you can get the timing right, when you get 98, 99 coming at you, it's going to go pretty hard the opposite direction too.
I've never hit a 99-mile-an-hour baseball, but I've hit a 72-mile-an-hour softball from 43 feet away, and that's pretty fast, too.
The corners are in here.
Inside.
And that's the thing, too, about a pitcher that supplies so much power. Really, you just have to simplify your swing and shorten up and just try to get your barrel through the zone, because ultimately the pitcher is supplying all the power that you need.
There's your defense. Corners are in, middle's back.
If Vincent finds a way aboard, it'll be Reese Albert stepping in. Popped up. And that will hold the runners.
The slider there, been going from 99 miles an hour to 85 mile an hour breaking pitch. Up to the right side.
We'll still see Reese Albert. But 2 outs on the board a sac fly or an RBI ground out now are not possibilities.
Experienced guy at the plate. He's been in big situations throughout his 4-year-plus career.
And I think they just intentionally walked him. BI single came in the second. At that moment, it knotted things up at 1. This one inside. There's a strike. 98. Can Carry on, find a way again. Can Simon get out of this? Ground ball to second. Miller to first. Threat eliminated. Lead intact. 2-1 to the 7th. Notre Dame with the lead at Hauser. Zach Preisner has done some terrific work this weekend defensively. He will lead things off for the Fighting Irish here in the top of the 7th. And he's got his mom in the house. Not only is she here, but she is standing by with Alexandra DeCapua.
Oh yeah, I'm here with Mrs. Beth Preisner. Beth, you guys have been on the road 5,000 miles this team has already traveled, and I know that you've been to 4 out of 7 of these series, so just talk to me about that distance and what it means to the guys to have you guys be here and support them.
Thanks. It's incredible. We are so blessed to have the opportunity to do this. Both my husband and I work from home, so we have flexibility. And honestly, after COVID, that was his second year, his sophomore year. Before that, we had gone to like 2 series in the whole season. And after COVID, all that could be taken away in a second. We just said we have to do whatever we need to travel and follow this team. So it's been a blessing. And one of the best parts, I think, is after the game, win or lose, great game or horrible game, whatever it is, we will go and have dinner with him, or even just during COVID, we had to walk around the hotel with a mask on just to have time. And he can just talk to my husband and just process all of it, and just to have like that safe space to process the good, the bad, the ugly, and just go get him the next day. So we're grateful that we're able to do that as much as we are.
Yeah, and you know, he's such a leader for this team. And what's it like just watching him and the rest of this team really try to, you know, come back after last year? They were 1 game away from a World Series. So just talk to me about that.
Last year was so incredible. And the highs and lows of baseball, right? We experienced some of the most incredible experience at Mississippi State, and the fans there, and the crowd, and just how intense and knowledgeable they are about it. It was an amazing run, and we're just hoping to continue that this year. We have almost everybody back, and he's a senior. A lot of great teammates, incredible families. So we're excited to just take this, you know, ride this road as long as we can.
Well, we're wishing the Irish the best of luck, and thanks for your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks, hon.
Thank you, Alexandra. He faces a 1-2 here. This one, another one in foul territory. Terrell will run out of room.
Chip, if you're Jackson Baumeister, what are you coming at him with right now?
He came back with a fastball. Came back up in the zone. Hey, set him up. If he's got the good snapping breaking ball, let's see what he does here. Couple wipes, make the hitter think a little bit with the glove.
The He tried to hold off, but he did not. 3 full innings of work now for Jackson Baumeister.
With stats in the clipboard.
He's facing a guy in Danny Neri who has played in 10 prior games this season, has recorded hits in 5 of the last 6. He's 0 for 2 today, though. His last hit coming against Virginia Tech.
That was the best changeup I've seen Baumeister throw. Baumeister right there, that ball just ran.
Got it. Went off speed again. Another strikeout for Jackson Baumeister. This his 4th.
Extending outing, again, getting comfortable. Big time fastball, big breaking ball, but this pitch right here makes everything jump out of your hand. Changeup, as you mentioned, back to back.
So back to the DH, Spencer Myers. Popped up the bunt. It'll get out of play.
Myers, one of 2 switch hitters for Notre Dame. He and Jared Miller both at the top of the order. Myers here batting first, Miller behind him.
Breaking ball.
Fence it behind the plate. Trust that breaking ball is going to break, and did not reach out. Let the ball travel, as they say. Called it deep under his chin. Strike 2. Alex, you like my hand action up here, don't you? The catching, I'm working the hands.
Yep, you get into it. I'm a fan.
Pitch number 42 coming from Jackson Baumeister. Already, by far and away, his longest outing of his career to this point.
And that changeup.
Change on the corner.
Now he's set for the fastball. And I'm just a guesser. I don't know. He's set for it.
That's what we are as hitters, too, oftentimes.
There's a couple wipes. You know, make the hitter think.
Tough as a hitter to hit, because naturally our swings just go directly underneath it. We just miss it.
Below the knees, ball 4. So Jaime Ferrer steps in. I've mentioned it before, I'll mention it again. Ferrer is pretty candid about a number of different things for Seton Hall up until this season. Now coming in relief and hammering the strike zone with a 92-mile-an-hour fastball.
He has a good slider as well.
His ERA a season ago in the Big East, 2.81, was the 6th best in the conference. Corral safe at first after a leadoff walk. Looking on to McClinsky.
Terrell at first base had pulled up last night late in the game with a hamstring issue back in the leg there, and he's going to be not going to be able to, big threat to go to first to third on a single.
Yeah, and they can't take him out since he didn't start the game. As soon as they take him out, he's burnt.
It's already Kate Bush, the other first baseman from Florida State, started the ball game.
Two-one fastball makes it 2-2 to Ferrer. And not only does it seem fitting that a guy who is intent on showing that he can live his life with no limitations, and he has certainly been impressive to this point, also follows a guy that he's been open about looking up to, Alex Terrell. Can't tell you the last time he batted 9th in the lineup. Now as it turns over to Ferrer, the youngster said instant connection when he got here to Florida State. He and Terrell both fresh faces in different ways respectively, but really fell under the wing of Terrell, and
this does not feel good. Slider off the instep. Full swing, and that ball went well past the third base dugout. That's not where the protective stuff on his feet, on his legs. The elbow protection is mandated by Mike Martin Jr. Have a guy injured on the ball like that. Gets you inside.
So now he steps back in to face another 2-2.
It's a ball well out over the plate. A lot of people pitch him in.
Quite get the timing down on that one.
Starting to slider off on his left hip and break back over the plate. Tied him up a little bit as he got a piece of it.
For the second time today, Ferrer is hit by a pitch. Up and in, 94.
10th time this year he's been hit. Like I mentioned, a lot of people, they're not throwing at him. I promise you, they're not throwing at him in a one-run ball game.
And that's hard to get out the way of. That ball is coming in so fast, and when it's coming in right at your back, it is almost impossible to get out of the way and move.
Connor Moore will check in for Alex Terrell.
That's a big move by Mike Martin Jr., just kind of taking Terrell out of the game because now he can't come back in. Obviously, it's a crucial run, so game-tying run at second base. So needing somebody with the ability to kind of motor is
that is
pretty
so
important.
True. Good point there, because Terrell, again, we mentioned the hamstring, ground ball through the infield, base hit, kind of working motor.
And the one thing I've learned, though, about baseball is it's only the 7th inning, but there's still a lot of game left. So, again, big move.
I'm trying to think in my mind what Florida State's going to put at first base. Nobody's getting loose, so we'll see what goes on there. Nobody out. Tyler Martin.
A young man who's lit it up at the plate since he got here. An early enrollee in the COVID year. Was a freshman All-American. Showing bunt, in come the corners. And of course, the shortstop Preisler heads to third, and we've got a ball come to Klinsky.
Maybe not. He stepped off. Had him down at third base, but again, he stepped off. See, he stepped off, so that's good.
There was so much movement in the defense. You have the shortstop, Preisler, sprinting over. You have Brannigan sprinting in. As soon as Martin showed bunt, there was so much momentum and so much movement going on. I think the pitcher got a little bit confused even himself in McClinsky.
Well, what can happen too, they do is split the infield. Second baseman Miller can go in for a quick pickoff.
And that'll drop in left field. A huge timely hit for Tyler Martin. In comes the tying run. Ball gets away. Both runners advance. Plethora of ways for Florida State to potentially take the lead here. Quickly 0-2.
If the error at third base with nobody else doesn't get a huge lead and is not trying to get a great jump, ground ball has to go through the infield with nobody out.
Yeah, you've got your defense in. All the Notre Dame infield is in, playing for the play at the plate on a miss-hit ground ball.
Lifted to foul territory off the netting. Lacey will see another.
And this is where it's crucial right now for Lacey to kind of just understand the situation. Like, Logan, you don't have to hit a home run. A sac fly will work. Don't try to do too much. Put the ball in play.
Try to look up the middle the other way.
Crowd coming to their feet. They sense the moment. Down he goes, ball in the dirt. Throw to first, retires Lacey, one down. That'll bring up Brett Roberts.
Just a big-time pitch there in the situation. Lacey swinging at it, not going down to try to get a piece of it. Brings up Brett Roberts, 1 out. Now it's different at a runner at third base. 1 out, you're going contact. You're making the play at the plate on a one-hopper, comebacker, line drive, you're in trouble. Extended lead at second base with Tyler Martin. I mentioned earlier, this guy on the mound, Kliska, has a big slider.
And that's a great take by Brett Roberts. Just the wherewithal to know that ball is out of the zone. It looks like a good pitch coming in because it's on plane, but just too far off.
Crowds into it. There's a slider again. At second batter this inning, Florida State fouled that slider off their instep. Roberts felt that one. Guerrero did it back, lead off the inning. Or 1 out, I'm sorry. Excuse me, the runner on. As always, up there in Section B, they're into it.
Fouled it back. 1-2.
Roberts just missed the fastball. And as soon as it's fouled straight back, you know that you're right on it. That was a 93-mile-an-hour fastball, and he's locked in.
You mentioned the fastball. He has him set up now to throw a 1-2 count slider. He threw a great one to Logan Lacey.
Be a huge second out for McClinsky if he can get it. Roberts trying to give Florida State its first lead. Lifted to right into foul territory, into the bleachers. It becomes a souvenir.
Decoy there by Neri. Threw the glove up, maybe make the strike. Oh, I saw the catcher throw the glove up. I'm thinking fastball up. Maybe he threw the slider and got it up a little bit.
Notre Dame took the lead in the second. Florida State responded. They took it back in the fourth. The Noles have tied it in the seventh. A chance for the homestanding Seminoles to take their first lead. Again to the near dugout.
Alex must be well protected down there. Alexander down there in that dugout.
Tell you what, Reese Albert had to dive to get out of the way.
Sideline reporter's been dodging foul balls all weekend.
And the camera people.
Yeah.
They're almost getting nailed.
Nobody's safe. I'm beginning to wonder if we are at this point.
We're good.
106 miles an hour off the bat. That got there in a hurry. Another 1-2. Good eye.
Great eye to play. Nobody's looking for the red dot in the camera. They're watching the ball game. Everybody wants to see what can happen here. 2-2, second and third, 1 out.
That one's up.
Trying to stay up in the zone with the slider, 3-2 count, open base. You have to make your pitch. If you don't, turn it over to the next guy.
Would be James Tibbs. Payoff pitch coming from McClinsky. I'll tell you what, Mike Martin Jr. had an impressive move there getting out of the way, even if he does have a bum ankle at this point.
You don't want to get hit twice in a row, 2 nights in a row.
What a battle this is. What a battle this weekend has been to this point. Down he goes. Fastball up, right in his eyes. A huge strikeout for McClinsky.
The fastball up in the zone continues to eat hitters up. That ball is so hard to catch up to. It is nowhere near a strike, but as a hitter, it feels like it looks so good and that you can just crush it, but it's a hard one to get your barrel on.
Got to have multiple pitches, off speed, and King just climbed the ladder. Probably didn't, if he missed with it, if he didn't swing, walked him, got an open base at first base. Pretty good job of whoever calling the pitches. And they're going to put Tibbs on here automatically to face Colton Vincent. Throw your pitch, as I mentioned. Throw your pitch if you miss it. You turn it over to the next guy. They loaded the bases up here to get the force on any base.
And so here steps the catcher. 0-1. Slider strike. One for three with the single.
Tyler Martin at second base is working to get that extra step with 2 out. See him at the bottom of your screen.
0-2.
We mentioned when he came in the ball game, Ron McCluskey, with that big slider, has him set up here. 0-2. Going back-to-back sliders.
After the Tyler Martin RBI single to tie it, it has been strikeout, strikeout, intentional walk by McClinsky. Perhaps just one pitch away from forcing Florida State to leave him loaded. Up the middle and through! Multiple runs will come in to score. Throw goes to third. McClinsky somehow gets underneath it. And into second is Colton Vincent, the catcher, makes Notre Dame pay.
Right back up the box, breaking pitch up, tried to get his glove, he saw the glove come off. Alex, that's what you want, but the ball gets thrown away here. Runner advanced, another rare error.
Colton Vincent, 0-2 count. That ball was left over the heart of the plate, and he just takes full advantage, drives it right back up the middle, not trying to do too much with it, and comes out on top.
I'll correct myself. That was Putz who charged in from first and got underneath that ball as it got away from the third baseman, Brannigan. Still, though, end result, Florida State leads by 2. Reese Albert at the plate.
Error was not scored on that as Vincent advanced to second.
I think he was going to second as soon as that ball was thrown in.
Yes. I just got away. Everybody advanced, everybody was safe.
Elevates to center. Williams charges on, makes the catch. But after the stretch,
big shift.
Down in the dirt. Vincent on top. The dart to first retires Jared Miller. Good start for Wyatt Crowell.
Electric stuff for this young man on the mound. Wyatt Crowell, fastball can touch 97. Good slider, great changeup. Has to have a lot of confidence in Vincent behind the plate to block the ball as he did there. 1 out.
And this is where it's going to be so crucial for tomorrow. Florida State is on their 3rd pitcher, and Notre Dame has now put up at least 5 pitchers. And that's to say if McClinsky can go the rest of the game.
That's one thing, too, with the expanded roster, the ACC with 30 ball players, you bring more arms on the road. Be 27 this year to 30.
Are those 3 extra people normally pitchers?
More than likely, that's what you're bringing.
Hard hit but foul. It goes 2-1 to Brannigan.
He was a pitcher of record the long game we had a few weekends ago, correct? Gruel picked up the W.
Came in and did a tremendous amount of work. Went over 5 innings in that 17-inning game. Check swing on the ball down low. Brannigan with an affirmative nod says, I knew it all the way.
Watch the hands, see if the hands come through.
Ooh, that was a tight one. He held.
That's why they get paid the big bucks.
That's a good call.
End up walking it.
Brannigan walks on 5 pitches. And that is a big walk because you've got Carter Putz, the first baseman, who stepped up. He's recorded several hits this weekend, and his most recent hit, that coming in the 4th, left the premises in a 2-run ball game with a runner aboard. One swing of the bat, certainly from this guy, could tie things up again.
That's why it's so important Florida State scored that 3rd run, 2-run lead going into the next inning. And one swing of the bat's not going to make a difference in the game, but you get a 1-out walk, one swing of the bat can make a difference in the ball game, especially with this guy at the plate.
On a weekend he has had to this point. Retired for just the first time today, his last AB. It was a strikeout to start the 6th.
That was a nothing pitch fastball, a lot of life, it got away, and you fence it behind the plate with a crossover and catching the ball to keep the force at first base. Runner at first. Little things.
Down in the dirt.
Back-to-back 3-1 counts here for Wyatt Crowell.
Ryan Cole will be in the on-deck circle. That is hit a ton out toward the fence and off of it. Ferrer bobbles it on the track, and coming home from 3rd is one of those 2 runs.
He saw him for multiple pitches last night.
Breaking ball. .333 batting average with runners in scoring position to this point this season for Ryan Cole. Make it 1-2.
You're looking for the fastball, throws at 94, 95, 96 miles an hour. You look for the splitter. Kingsback hits with the slider.
Cole has been retired for the first time tonight.
That's a huge out in Ryan Cole, somebody who has so much power and the ability to really change the complexity of a ball game, and Davis Hare comes in immediately and just shuts him down.
It's like a bowling ball coming at you, rolling off a table, and it had some speed to it. The life just dropped out of that ball.
On the ground to 3rd. And the line drive, was snagged by Logan Lacey. Hot shot to the hot corner. And the man who moved in from center field yesterday eliminates the threat, keeps the lead intact, and gets it back to the Seminole Bats. Roman Kimball is the new hurler for the Fighting Irish. Freshman from New Hartford, New York, will try to keep the Noles in check. 1 inning after they sent 8 to the plate. We'll quickly take a look at his numbers. This is his 5th appearance. He has an ERA at 4.15 through a combined 4 1/3. He's given up a hit. Has struck out 7, has walked 3. A chance for Florida State to tack on some insurance here in the bottom of the 8th. They'll go 8-9-1. It'll be Carry On, Baz Jimenez, and then back to the top of the order and Jaime Ferrer.
This is his, Roman Kimball's 5th outing of the year, and you look at his numbers, progressively he's gotten better every time he's gotten into the ball game. His last appearance, March 29th, 2 1/3 innings, 4 strikeouts.
Ball off the plate to start, 92 miles an hour to Jordan Carry On. RBI single in the 2nd, strikeout in the 4th, and a ground out to 2nd in the 6th.
Kimball works on the first base side of the rubber, and really gets great extension and works that fastball down.
Neri, the catcher, tried to frame the 2-1 up from below the zone. Doesn't get the call from Linus Baker.
He really works the ball down in the zone.
Reached forward, grounder to first, and the first baseman Putz makes the toss back to the catcher, or excuse me, the pitcher, Roman Kimball.
To the infielders, guarding the corners right there. There's pretty good ways to go for Putz at first. Freshman covering the bag back there, 1 out.
So for the first time this weekend, say hello to Baz Jimenez. Big swing and a miss. Freshman from Miami.
Was swinging the bat pretty good at the end of fall of the preseason practice. Put the bat on the ball with some carry. Quickly 0-2.
On top of that one, just missed it, fouled it back. Limited sample size for Jimenez, but the batting average at 200. He goes down on 3 pitches, the throw down to first on the money. The Fighting Irish will be down to the final 3 outs as we head to the 9th. Question will be how many they'll need. Kip will try to do his job and make sure it's only 1. So far, so good.
Florida State could really use an insurance run right now, just going into that top of the 9th inning.
Gets tougher here for Kimball as he squares off with a fellow freshman in Ferrer. Ferrer has reached base 3 times tonight. He was hit by a pitch in the 1st and the 7th, also singled in the 3rd.
Good take. Fastball, blow the kneecaps.
And Chip, tonight we see Danny Neri behind the plate, and last night was Lamena, and both have a lot of movement when they're kind of framing those pitches down in the zone.
Trying to get that ball and catch it more toward the plate. The glove drops down. A lot of catchers are catching coaches are teaching to drop the glove and catch everythall
Ball away, does not get the call. So the count runs full to Ferrer. Two-out walk.
Good job of hitting there by Jaime Ferreira. Developing a very good eye to plate. Painted the corners, maybe a ball or so off the plate. Did not get the strikes called. Brings up Tyler Martin here with one on with two out.
Tyler Martin dumped a single into left field, scored the tying run, and then would come in to score on a 2 RBI single up the middle by the catcher Colton Vincent.
Crossover move up. Mentioned Florida State's catcher Vincent. Crossover right move again. Danny Neri right there. Crossover kept the runner at first. Catchers are doing a job this weekend. Maybe automatic take on the 1-0 count with Tyler Martin. Just with him, I don't think he got the take from his third base coach father.
Crowd not happy with the strike 2 call.
A perfect pitch. Fastball in on the corner, knee high.
That one came in on Tyler Martin. Ferrer slides into second. Neri's throw airmails the bag and is covered in shallow center.
Just a great read with 2 outs. The ball gets away from the catcher. Ferrer works hard, gets to second base. Ball in the dirt, track it. The ball gets away, come up and get the second. If you get thrown out, you get thrown out. You got Tyler Martin leading off if you need him in the ninth.
Yeah, but with 2 outs, I don't know that I'm really throwing that ball if I'm Neri on
Straight
that.
point.
Extra insurance now in scoring position for the Seminoles. Miller, the second baseman, backs off. Noles trying to even the series up with Notre Dame. They'll have a chance, the Fighting Irish will, to extend the proceedings or take the lead right back in the top of the ninth, but the Noles are first trying to see how far they can stretch it before they get to the final inning of regulation.
Nice job by the freshman on the mound. It wasn't sure of his sign, stepped off, got it worked out. Now they're confused a little bit. Got your get it together, get the sign right.
Bouncer up the middle. Preisner at short. Throw on the money again. He has been automatic. And for the most part, Notre Dame's defense has been as well. They need a run offensively when we come back. Underway here in Tallahassee. It's been a delayed set of proceedings here. 4 hours delayed to be specific, but it has certainly been worth the wait. The 8th inning kind of the Seminoles. Tyler Martin drove in the tying run with an opposite field shot to left, and then Colton Vincent with the bases loaded after James Tibbs was intentionally walked to get to Vincent, rips a single up the middle to plate a couple. Notre Dame would respond with a 1-out walk and an RBI double by their first baseman Carter Putz to trim the lead back to 1, but alas, they are down to their final 3 outs here.
See what Davis Hare could do with a clean inning. Start the inning off. He had an outstanding performance. Probably one of his first of the year at Wake Forest.
He jammed up there. It'll go 0-2. I'll circle back to the storyline. In general, when you see a guy who's coming out in a tight ball game, this would be the part of the order that historically, traditionally, you'd say this is where you'd like to be. 7, 8, 9. Get through these guys. This is where you'd feel most comfortable about your chances. Well, Coatsy, who just caught a piece of that one, he'll see another one, is a guy who really statistically has been one of the more solid hitters in the lineup. But because he's comfortable in that portion of the order, Link Jarrett's left him there. So don't let the positioning in the order fool you into thinking that this guy is somehow less of a threat than somebody batting third or fourth.
He definitely has a little bit of power. He's got 6 home runs on the season so far, but that's, to your point, Sean, that's exactly what you want. You know, we've talked about it already. The game doesn't know. The game doesn't know that it's your 7-hole hitter, your 8-hole hitter, your 9-hole hitter. They're in the game and in the starting lineup for a reason, and they have a chance just like anyone else, 1 through 9.
He has a chance to really set a tone offensively for the Fighting Irish here. They need a run, and he will make his way aboard. The slider up and in.
Ball just got away from Hare, especially on the 0-2 count, up and in.
Joey Spence now pinch hitting in place of Zach Preisner. Up and away. Spence is a freshman from West Bend, Wisconsin. Can the youngster come through in a big way here?
Crowd has become quiet here watching this ball game again. Vincent's going out to make sure his signs are correct with what Davis Hare is thinking. Not a good time to get crossed up. Good time that was called. I believe the coaching staff yelled out. You heard him. Step off, step off. Mike Martin Jr. is heading out.
High drama here at Hauser and a pitching change coming. Jonah Scalaro gets the call, and we will be right back in a few moments. High drama at Hauser here in Tallahassee, Florida. Sean Davison, Chip Baker, Alex Powers, Alexander DeCapua, Notre Dame, Florida State, that worm, all here with you this afternoon. What more could you want?
I'm glad you brought me up to date on that because I had no idea what that was.
Little fuzzy worms.
Fuzzy worm. Okay,
Good luck,
Alex,
worm.
you got it. Okay.
It's good luck.
And Jonah Scalaro steps in for this, his 13th appearance. 1-2 the record. ERA above 4. 18 combined innings of work, 19 hits, 26 strikeouts, 2 walks. Mike Martin Jr. has called him the high leverage guy. Well, I think by definition, this is pretty darn high leverage.
Scalaro is highly competitive. He wants to be in pressure-filled moments like this. We saw him come in last night. And the thing is, when you have the opportunity to succeed, you also have to be willing to accept the times in which you don't come out on top. And that's how you become great, is you put it on the line and put it all out there.
Nick Jouer is going to be the new pinch hitter. So after the pitching change, Link Jarrett decided to ante up and go from Joey Spence to Nick Jouer.
On the dirt, the block. Jonas Calera, pitcher of record last night, took the loss and gave up the home run. But as a relief pitcher, you have to have a short memory, go to bed, get up, ready to go the next day. Over 100+ outings, this left-hander. 3-1.
Came in with the fastball.
Normally he's a kneecap fastball guy, missed, as you mentioned, up there. The key is nobody out.
Notre Dame took game 1. As you mentioned, Chip, 12 innings over Florida State. Seminoles trying to even things up. This is popped up toward shallow right, into foul territory and out of the reach of Jackson Green.
Just overran the play, Jackson Green, into the ballgame a couple innings ago. Well, how big is that out there? Potential out. Not much wind, no wind at all. The ball just always is going to carry back toward second base. 3-2.
That's a walk to Jouer. Jack Penny will come in to pinch run.
Everybody's using everybody they have. Pinch runner, pinch hitter.
David LaManna will check in to pinch hit, and here comes Mike Martin Jr.
Communication, especially on the bunt defense. That's the reason why Mike Martin Jr. went out there, talked to his veteran senior on the mound, but I want to make sure this defense is together. Remember, you have a first baseman over there. I'm not sure if he's played many innings at first base, if this may be his first time over there. There's doubt, get the out.
David LaManna got the start as the catcher yesterday.
LaManna has yet to get down a sacrifice bunt this year, or has yet been called upon.
Corners coming in for Florida State.
There's no surprise in Notre Dame and their bunt situations. They're going to show that bat early.
Yeah, and that's something that Coach Link Jarrett did say in the pregame chats that we had, was that his team doesn't generally, produce the long ball, and so they have to lean so heavily on the situational hitting. So right now it's going to be crucial for LaManna to try and get this bunt down and then Florida State to execute.
Strike on the corner. to LaManna, a guy that Link Jarrett has described as tough, gritty, a grinder, a guy who hasn't always had the overwhelming numbers, but has always done what's necessary and has come through and executed in the moments when Notre Dame's needed it most.
Catchers are always, in my memory, as some of your best bunters, because when you bunt the baseball, you set your bat angle, which Notre Dame is doing, these bunters are, but you use your legs. You set the angle, if the ball's above it, pull the bat back. Ball 2.
Two one coming. Make it 3-1. Tying run at second. Go ahead run at first. Make it full. Similar to LaManna, Jonah Scalaro has seen moments like this before. Year in, year out.
LaManna faced Scalaro yesterday, ground ball to third.
Out in front. Vincent to first. That'll move the runners. But it is a big first out. Tying run 90 feet away.
That's a huge play by Colton Vincent behind the plate. You have both Vincent and Scalaro charging in hard on that ball, and Vincent just has to take charge and say, I got it, and make a play. Routine out at first base, but again, a little bit gritty there, just where that ball was placed.
A reverse pivot with a throw to first base.
That's a big out.
A swinging bunt. Did the job here, runners advance.
It is Penny pinch running for Jouer at second, as you saw on your screen. Coetzee,
very crowded infield.
90 feet away.
Get a guy at the plate here. Spencer Myers can handle the bat. Corners are really pinching. Safety squeeze is always opportunity here with one out.
And Spencer Myers, as you mentioned, a guy that has an opportunity here and has been one of the more solid bats in the lineup year in, year out over the course of his career in South Bend. He's 0 for 4 today. Didn't play yesterday. Has a big opportunity here. Quickly 0-2.
The pitch by Scalaro is nasty. The bend in that pitch has so much movement, and Spencer Myers just doesn't seem to recognize it out of his hand.
Got him! Pulled the string and flipped in some change.
You said it, Chip. No pitcher is going to be successful in the ACC without the ability to flip that changeup, and that thing is on a string.
Just pulled a rope. Biggest strikeouts, Jonas Scalaro. He's picked up a bunch, but right now in this situation, 2 out. Got to finish the inning, finish the ball game.
Notre Dame trying to extend the ball game. Florida State trying to force a rubber match tomorrow. Foul tip off of Vincent as well. Linus Baker's going to give the catcher a minute to settle back in.
Jared Miller did face Scalaro yesterday. Ground ball to second base.
Miller has popped up, flied out, grounded out, and struck out to this point today. Down and away. A Notre Dame team that went to a super regional a season ago, a Florida State team picked to win the conference. Bouncer up the middle. Glove by Green, and the tying run will score. Throw comes home, and they take the lead. The Fighting Irish fight back in the top of the ninth.
Chopping ball just got beyond the Green, barely got the glove on it. A wild throw at the plate. Rich Wallace, third base coach. Notre Dame just brought the runner. You get a chance, opportunity to score that run, you did. Nothing better feeling right there, coaching third base, to be able to bring a runner like that when the ball did not get out of the infield. Green going back on his heels, did not get the opportunity to get a good throw off.
Popped up. Green underneath it. And that'll let. They start with Logan Lacey.
This young man impressed me on the hill last inning, and just Roman Kimball just coming in and taking charge. Freshman, works quick, those strikes. Gets the ball, works on the mention the first base side of the rubber, be able to run that fastball up under the hands of the right-handed batter. A good slider.
Ground ball to second. Miller to first. Lacey retired.
Had thoughts of taking that glove out there and hitting it, but if you realize you got a pretty good defense behind you, let those guys play with it.
And that's so instinctive as a pitcher, just to try to kind of put your glove out, get a little bit of a hand on it, but really good awareness by Roman Kimball in the circle and on the mound to allow a second baseman, Miller, to make that play.
Jackson Green here came into the game a few innings ago. His first at bat of the night.
Down and away. Jackson Green has made pretty hard contacts throughout the course of the season. Was barreling up the bat pretty well at the end of last season. On top of trying to stay in the series and knot this one up one apiece. That's another one of those swinging bunts out in front of the catcher, but David LaManna, the senior, is able to retire Jackson Green.
There's something you just can't teach a catcher. You just have to be an athlete, go out, field the bunt, and throw it on a run. Can't set your feet, just keep the momentum going and get the second out there at first. Alex, pretty good play.
Yeah, definitely. LaManna has a lot of bounce back there, and his ability just to get up out of his crouch and make that play. It was a swinging bunt, if you will, and just he even threw the ball right over Green's head. I mean, it was just a very athletic, very aware play.
And that brings up James Tibbs. First pitch swinging. Oh, 0-2. They were swept by Louisville in what could be the weekend series that the Cardinals look back on and say, we got back on track. They lost their only matchup to Virginia Tech. James Tibbs dropped the bat and was heading back to the dugout in frustration, could have maybe run down to first, and that is how this one will end. 5-4.